For decades, some of the most sensitive operations in American history existed only behind locked doors, classified stamps, and files that the public was never meant to read. But when selected CIA records were finally declassified, they revealed a world far stranger and more complicated than the official history suggested. Inside those documents were traces of secret surveillance, covert operations, unusual experiments, and decisions made far from public scrutiny. These were not rumors copied from old newspapers. They were records created by the intelligence system itself. Yet the most unsettling question was not simply what the CIA had done. It was why so much of it had remained hidden for so long. As researchers began examining the released material, patterns emerged across different decades, countries, and operations. Some files confirmed events that had long been suspected. Others revealed details that historians had never fully understood. And buried among thousands of pages were clues showing just how far intelligence agencies were willing to go during periods of intense geopolitical tension. This is the story of what those declassified records can actually tell us, and what they still leave unanswered. As investigators continued examining the released records, the picture became more complex. The documents did not reveal one single secret operation, but a collection of programs developed during moments when American officials feared losing an invisible war. Intelligence officers monitored foreign governments, tracked political developments, studied emerging technologies, and searched for information that could provide an advantage over rival powers. Some operations were carefully planned and authorized through official channels. Others existed within layers of secrecy that made accountability difficult to establish. The files also showed how intelligence work could blur the boundary between observation and intervention. A report might begin with surveillance, lead to analysis, and eventually become part of a much larger decision. Names were sometimes removed. Locations were obscured. Entire sections disappeared beneath heavy black redactions. Yet even those missing pieces could become clues. Researchers could compare dates, signatures, references, and related documents to reconstruct fragments of what had happened. In some cases, the records challenged popular stories. In others, they confirmed that certain Cold War fears had been far more serious than the public understood at the time. What emerged was not a simple story of heroes or villains, but a complicated history of secrecy, uncertainty, and decisions made under extraordinary pressure. But the most revealing discoveries were often found in the details that seemed insignificant at first. A date on one memo could connect it to a meeting mentioned in another report. A familiar name might appear in an unrelated file years later. A reference number could lead researchers toward an operation that had previously remained obscure. Piece by piece, historians began reconstructing the larger picture. Some records described surveillance programs designed to understand foreign governments and political movements. Others documented attempts to collect information through unconventional methods. Among the most controversial material were records concerning experiments involving human behavior and the use of psychological techniques. These programs reflected the anxiety of an era when American officials feared that rival nations were developing capabilities the public knew little about. Yet the documents also revealed uncertainty within the agencies themselves. Officials questioned results, debated reliability, and sometimes struggled to determine whether extraordinary claims were actually credible. This is what makes the files so fascinating. They do not present a perfectly organized secret world where every plan succeeded. Instead, they reveal real people working with incomplete information, competing priorities, and enormous pressure. The deeper researchers looked, the clearer it became that the history of intelligence was shaped not only by powerful decisions, and perhaps but also the greatest lesson hidden inside these and unanswered questions is that secrecy does not always disappear when a document is released. Declassification can reveal what officials once knew, what they attempted, and what decisions were made, but it can also expose the limits of the historical record. Pages may remain redacted. Important names may be missing. Some records may have been destroyed, lost, or never created in the first place. For researchers, that means every discovery must be weighed against what cannot be known with certainty. The declassified files therefore offer something more valuable than sensational secrets. They provide a rare window into the fears, calculations, mistakes, and uncertainties that shaped decades of American intelligence history. They show that behind the powerful institutions were ordinary people trying to interpret incomplete information during extraordinary moments. Some decisions changed policy. Others disappeared into archives without producing the results their authors expected. And years later, the surviving documents allow a new generation to question those decisions with the benefit of hindsight. The story is not simply about what the CIA kept hidden. It is about how history changes when previously inaccessible evidence finally reaches the light. Every open file answers some questions while creating others. And somewhere inside the remaining boxes, there may still be records capable of changing what we think we know about the past.